Hello and welcome to our special broadcast from the 65th Annual Convention of the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers. This is the annual gathering of all top automotive OEMs in the country. Nitin, Gadkari, the Road Transport Minister, kicked off the event by urging the industry to focus more on clean fuels and biofuels in the future and give higher discounts to customers who have scrapped their older vehicles. He also hit out at the paid lobby which was targeting him over the E20 rollout. Overall, here at the SIAM convention, there was an air of optimism after the GST reductions. Let's listen in.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट में भी इसके बारे में बहुत साफ निर्णय हुआ है। अब जैसे आपकी इंडस्ट्री है वैसे हमारा पॉलिटिक्स भी है, तो ये सोशल मीडिया का जो कैंपेन था वो पेड कैंपेन था, वो अगेंस्ट इथेनॉल था और पॉलिटिकली टारगेट मुझे करने के लिए था। तो मैं इतना ही कहूंगा कि वो जो कुछ था उसमें कोई तथ्य नहीं था, सब बातें क्लियर हुई है। परसों मैंने प्रधानमंत्री जी को भी रिक्वेस्ट की, फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर को भी कही है कि स्क्रैपिंग को बढ़ाने के लिए जो गाड़ी स्क्रैप करेंगे और नई गाड़ी लेंगे उसमें कुछ जीएसटी के बारे में हम सोच सकते, तो विचार करिए। ये भी बात हमने वित्त मंत्री के सामने रखी है। मैं आप लोगों को भी रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि जो नई गाड़ी खरीदी करेगा स्क्रैपिंग सर्टिफिकेट देकर, उसको अगर कुछ अच्छा डिस्काउंट अगर आपके पास वो आता है और ऑफर करेंगे रीजनेबली अच्छा, तो इससे बहुत विन विन सिचुएशन है।
I think this is a very big reform which is happening from 22nd of September. It is not only kickstart the auto industry, but across all other industries also. Everybody is going to benefit, and the common man is going to be a big beneficiary. On the top of it, I think the two more things I would like to bring in the knowledge is, one, the benefit which was passed on through the income tax by the Honorable Finance Minister, and also I think the RBI Governor has done a very good job in terms of reducing the repo rates. So I think it's a combination now of the GST, then the benefit which is passed on through the income tax, and third is the repo rate. So I think it's going to be a bumper sales in this festival time.
I believe with the 10% cut in the smaller cars, it will bring in so many new customers. The first-time buyers, which Hyundai anyway is seeing a big jump. First-time buyers in 2020 used to be about 31%. Now they are at 39.5%. I believe we have a potential to go up to maybe 42, 43% in first-time buyers. So more small car selling. The second thing I think which will be much more significant is, if you see the customer affordability remains the same in terms of how much he can spend. However, the car becomes cheaper, which means its initial signs, maybe the customers will now again go back to the higher trims, because last 1 year we are seeing that customers were moving down from higher trims to middle trims to lower trim. But now there's an opportunity, because India is a very, very aspirational country.
Until 22nd, we're going to be cautious on the front.
Right. So is this going to restrict the amount of inventory you'll be able to put into system?
No, so we have taken steps to ensure that we'll still be able to meet the festive demand. So there are a few steps we are taking on the front as well. So you'll see that as it plays out. It's like I said, it's not an easy puzzle to solve for, but that's what we are here.
Shailesh Chandra, the president of the Society of Indian Automotive Manufacturers and also the managing director of Tata Motors Passenger Vehicles and Electric Vehicles, said that the GST reduction is going to help all automotive segments, and they are going to get a better picture of the demand scenario in the next couple of weeks. Having said that, the SIAM president also urged the government to continue supporting the electric mobility even beyond March 2026, when the PM e-Drive scheme comes to an end. He said that the industry was well on course to achieve 15 to 20% electrification, at least in the passenger car segment, by 2030. On the issue of rare earth magnets, the SIAM president said that it is still status quo, not much has changed, but the industry continues to find alternatives. Let's listen in.
Yeah, I think, it's been a really welcome move and a major reform which was very much awaited. I would say this was a request by the Automotive Association for a long period of time, I must say. It's a welcome move. It is coming just ahead of the festive season, so there will be a big boost in the short term. And in terms of how this whole thing will pan out is something to be observed. But let me first talk about the short term. There has been a pent-up which has been building for 1.5 months since the time, after 15th August, people have been waiting for the GST reduction and, waiting to book their cars also. So after this announcement has happened, and then you have seen that pent-up being released in terms of bookings and all, right? But also the second factor which is really going to help is, the festive itself, right? Festive season generally you see is 35% to 40% more than the average, demand during the year. So that I think is really going to help alongside the pent-up demand. And third, we'll have to see the GST rate reduction, how certain customers who are not considering buying cars, how they get excited about this. So something which we'll have to observe over a period of time. But definitely I can say that second half of the year, which typically for, say for example, passenger vehicle industry used to be 55% of the total volume of the year, should see much better percentage, as I would say. That's what I expect. Different segments will get impacted differently. I'm sure that in the car segment you will see the demand growth is going to come mainly in the entry segment and for the middle class income group. For two-wheelers, I believe that this is going to be really a big boost, especially for the rural economy, because I understand that urban was doing a bit better than rural. Now I think with this and monsoon which has been good, the rural demand, especially for I would say less than 125cc products, should really see a good boost. So I hope that with this booster, two-wheeler industry will see a new peak after 2019, what they had seen about 2.1 million or 21 million or so. So two-wheeler we are expecting that to go strong. Passenger vehicle I've already spoken about the factors. In long term the addition is going to come from in the entry side. In commercial vehicle I think there is always will be a lag basis how the economic activities grow, how the GDP grows, and the multiplier effect starts coming into play. I think then we'll see a growth in CV segment also. But passenger vehicle segment also is very much correlated to the GDP. Generally it is 1.2 to 1.3 times of your GDP growth. So there will be short term, mid term, long term that we'll have to see how it pans out, but definitely it's a big booster for the industry.
What is your hope and expectation from the government in terms of supporting the electric mobility going forward? Should they stop subsidies or should they continue only for certain categories?
No, so we have given our thinking on that to the government. I would reserve that, but definitely the expectation would be to extend the support and continue to extend this support, because there is always a threshold level of penetration that you need to attain before you start withdrawing the incentives or benefit. So policy support till you achieve about 20% of penetration level in all the categories is where one should keep supporting, because that is what you will see globally also.
Right.
The countries which have done well in electric mobility have got that kind of a support from the government till you have attained about 20% penetration. That would be the expectation.
My final question, could you give us a sense of, you've spoken about a lot of tailwinds for the industry, but the headwinds, the problems that the industry is facing right now which need to be overcome, especially the high rare earth magnet issue. Has China started releasing those consignments, or is the situation where it was since the 1st of April?
Yeah, I think, when this issue came up, it came up as a surprise to many of us, and we were caught off guard to start with, but once you face the situation, you start splitting the problem into parts and then try to solve it. I think initially it was more with the inventories that you had, that most of the companies were managing, and then it moved to coordinating with the suppliers to get access to more material, to wherever from across the world it was possible. Then thinking beyond that, imagining worst case scenarios and all. In two-wheelers you see people have moved to the light rare earth and all that option, but that supply is also not I would say there fully. In passenger cars also I'm seeing most of the members also looking for alternatives of exploring alternate sources of raw material, reducing the raw material usage, or if not eliminating. I think all those options are being looked into, but I think as far as the clearances are concerned, the to my latest knowledge, it remains status quo. And we are hopeful. Government is very supportive, I must say that. And therefore, we are working closely with the government to see if the situation changes as early as possible. But it is imperative that this issue gets resolved.
So it is still curtailing production to some extent?
I don't think so. Anybody has, except for two-wheeler industry where there had been curtailment of production. I have not seen any other member curtailing the production. Maybe for specific models they would have done, but not to my knowledge.
So in the short and medium term, it seems that industry will have to find alternatives. There is no immediate solution to the rare earth problems in terms of release of consignment.
We are seeing the next 2 month situation, whether we are covered or not. It's in that manner, and then looking for mid-term to long-term solution, as I mentioned.
One of India's largest commercial vehicle makers, Ashok Leyland, is optimistic that they will be able to increase their sales of commercial vehicles across segments as a result of the GST reductions. They also told us how they will be doubling down when it comes to capex deployments on localizing the electric vehicle supply chains, especially batteries. Listen in to Shenu Agarwal, the Managing Director and CEO of Ashok Leyland.
You know, one is definitely that everybody is talking about that the prices will come down. In our case, the tax has reduced from 28 to 18 on the diesel side, and the EV stays at 5, right? But since 98-99% of the sales today is diesel, this will have a huge impact on our TCO, on the total operating cost that a customer will bear on buying a truck. That itself changes the dynamics quite a lot. But I would say that this is still not the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing is that this GST is not sector specific. It is touching everyone in the country, every sector, every consumer in the country. And therefore, the overall demand or the overall consumption is going to go up significantly. And once the consumption goes up, whether it is a toothpaste or a brush or a car or a scooter or anything else, or cement, or it has to be carried. It has to be carried on a truck. And therefore, the freight traffic is bound to increase. I think the biggest trigger for us is not the cut in the price, but this freight traffic which will increase, which will directly impact the industry in terms of needing more trucks and more buses to be able to carry these goods and passengers.
Right. Now, could you give us your growth outlook in terms of the growth that you were looking at in FY26 in commercial vehicles for Ashok Leyland before the GST cut and after the GST cut?
Listen, it's very difficult to quantify this right now, but if you would ask me this question, maybe end of October, I can give you a very straight answer. But I would say that initially at the start of the year, the industry was expecting about, let us say, 3% growth in the trucks and maybe 4 or 5% growth in the trucks. But I would definitely say it would be a much higher number now.
Okay. Also to ask you about deploying capex. Does this increase your ability to deploy capex?
Definitely. I mean, already in a way, we were getting ready in many ways, whether it is, working on our alternate powertrain technologies. We have spent a lot of capex in the last few years on that. I think our next step is basically now looking at localizing the supply chain of the electric vehicles. You would have heard about our foray into batteries, battery space in India, and we are one of the first few players in India who are getting into this space. And the reason we are getting into this space is that 40 to 50% of the cost of an electric truck or a bus comes from the battery. It is extremely important that we reduce that cost to move the adoption of trucks and buses much faster than what it is. Right? So I think our roadmap is quite clear. First is the powertrain technology. Second is make the supply chain very resilient, and the only way in today's geopolitical world is to localize it. And the third is also now to start looking at circularity, which is very important, and it is much more relevant when we talk about sustainable mobility.
So how much are you going to be investing in these areas?
A lot. Battery space itself would be an investment of roughly 5,000 crores, and I am a little conservative on that number. Because I say conservative because it really depends on the demand of electric vehicles that will come. Some people believe that it will have a hockey stick kind of a demand curve, which means that if the demand goes beyond our imagination, the investment could be much higher. But let us say 5,000 crores there. Our overall capex in product development or technology development has been, including some sustenance capex, has been close to 400 to 500 crores. I think this year we'll end up spending more than 1,000 crores. So we are really revving up our capex and make ourselves future ready.
On that note, we take a short break, but don't go anywhere. When we return, we're going to get you more conversations from the SIAM convention with leading automakers in the country on India's export story in light of the FTA conversations, volatile geopolitical situations, and the India-China recalibration of ties. Welcome back. You're watching our special broadcast from the 65th Annual Convention of the Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, which is the biggest annual gathering of top automotive OEMs in the country. Over here, I caught up with the Managing Director of Maruti Suzuki, India's largest passenger car maker. Hisashi Takeuchi told me that they're gearing up to export the e-Vitara to 100 countries and also begin domestic sales within this fiscal. They want to have a strong export story and want to cross 4 lakh units in this fiscal itself. They also have the launch of a new flex fuel vehicle on the cards. Listen in.
Actually, GST, especially for small cars, we see the 10% reduction of the rate. Actually, it's 11% including cess. So our retail price, if we are going to transfer all the benefits to the customer, so customer will enjoy at the retail price level almost 8.5% reduction. I think that will push up the sales from current going rate to almost like a 10% increase. I see, that will happen after GST. And not only small cars, but overall, all segments will receive big benefit thanks to the GST. So I think overall, total market will see 7 or 8% increase in the next financial year.
All right. I would also like to ask you about the export picture. You've just rolled out the e-Vitara from your plant in Gujarat for export purposes. Could you give us some numbers as to how many e-Vitaras do you plan to export in the current fiscal? And how many countries are you looking to touch?
Okay. So the number of countries we are going to export is actually 100 plus 1 countries. Gradually we are start shipping cars, and the first priority is given to European countries where our dealers are waiting the arrival of EV for long time. So that's why first shipment went to UK, followed by the one to the continent, and then after that we start export to Japanese market. And almost same time, we will keep selling this car in the Indian market as well.
Right. So if I were to ask you, in this fiscal, how many units of the e-Vitara could you export?
Because, the production we are ramping up. So gradually increasing the production output. And, sooner or later, I think quite soon we will be reaching maybe 8,000 to 10,000 a month production volume, and then that will go to worldwide as well as for Indian market. Probably, I think maybe 60%, 70% going for export, 30-40% for the domestic market.
All right. Overall, exports have been a focus area for Maruti Suzuki. Overall, not just the Vitara, what kind of export growth are you looking at in FY26?
Year before, our export was around 2.8 lakh, and last year was 3.3. This year we are seeing over 4 lakh, and so that is like a level of speed of growth.
All right. In terms of future technologies that Maruti Suzuki will work on, especially with the result of the collaboration, long-standing collaboration with Suzuki, could you give us the technology pipeline that will be the focus of the company?
We just had press conference in Japan. This is the annual press conference of our technology roadmap.
And in that technology roadmap, we are explaining that we are focusing on how to minimize the energy and resource we use for producing and also driving our cars. And that sort of technology we're going to introduce. One of these is try to make the weight of the cars as light as possible. Because even in the era of EV, the lighter EV will consume the fewer electricity, which is good for the environment. So that is one of the area where we are focusing on. But we have plenty of other technologies that just we announced in the Japanese press conference.
It's been over a year since China's SAIC-owned MG Motor came together to form a joint venture with the JSW Group called JSW MG Motor India. We caught up with their new managing director Anurag Mehrotra about the company's plans to double down on electric vehicle growth in India and also about the recent positive messaging in India-China relations.
I think it is a very welcome move. The Prime Minister has taken a very progressive step in working towards bridging the gaps with China. I must acknowledge that, and I think in our path to sustainable mobility, it is important to draw on capabilities from around the world, China included. China today is by far the most significant market for new energy vehicles. And in our path to building a sustainable mobility ecosystem in India, it would augur well for us to draw on the capabilities from China while we are building our own capabilities as part of the Viksit Bharat project.
Right. So that brings me to my next question about Press Note 3. There has been deliberation in the industry and the government on whether Press Note 3, which restricts how the investments from China come into India and they can only come through government approvals. Do you feel it's time to revisit that, change that?
I think the government is doing everything within its power to ensure that there is ease of doing business in India, and that is not restricted just to countries which are bordering with India. It is with every country around the world, and I think we are very supportive and have got all the help that is required from the government of India to ensure we continue to grow in the marketplace.
Right. So speak about the rare earth issue. Now that was something that the industry was badly grappling with. Do you think we've overcome that crisis? Have we started receiving consignments of high rare earth magnets from China? What is the pace of getting those supplies right now?
I think as mentioned by SIAM itself, the stated position of the industry body is clear that it is an issue that is getting addressed. Earlier today you heard the president of SIAM also make a statement around the fact that this issue is getting addressed especially after the visit of the Prime Minister to China. So these are encouraging signs, and we are sure we will get over this hump very soon.
India and the European Union are fast-tracking negotiations on their FTA with the hope to conclude it by the end of this year. Here at the SIAM Summit, I caught up with Jyoti Malhotra, the managing director of Volvo Cars, one of Europe's top car makers. He told me that he hopes that the India-EU FTA will bring a level playing field to European car makers and bring down the overall tariff levels. In the long term, Volvo Cars has not changed its focus. The focus will be on expanding its footprint in the India market and also focusing on electrification in a big way.
I would say FTAs are welcome. I think free trade is something which is really helps the whole, I think both sides. That's the whole perspective of having a free trade agreement. And hence I think unless the fine print is out, we can't really say where it is heading. But I can say one thing that I think we have already done as a country. We have India-UK FTA already in place, and I'm sure this will build on that. And keeping that in mind, I'm very confident that I think EU-India FTA will also come out as soon as possible. We can't really say how much is done and how it will come through, but it is now very close to, I would say, conclusion, and we hope to get it soon. But I think what it does is, the trade agreement, what it does is two things. I think it is not about suddenly things becoming cheaper. I think that's I would say, misnomer. Doesn't happen. What it does, it creates a very easy supply chain on both sides. We can source parts which much more easily and then add value here and then export them back. And I think we need to see it from that perspective, how it really impacts your economy of scale. And I think from an India perspective, I think government has been talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India. I think these trade agreements will actually boost that in a big way. And it sort of bodes well because in absence of FTAs, we can produce in India, but we can't export back. This creates an opportunity for us to, I think, do that. And I think that is something which can create a different way of looking at things in India for everyone.
All right. I would like to ask you, till now, what are the kind of hurdles which you faced in terms of growing your footprint in India? And how do you think the India-EU FTA will help you get over that?
See, I think one of the key challenges for us is, we are as an industry, the luxury industry in India is still very small. We are only just 1% of the overall auto industry. Auto industry has really grown well. We are still around 1% and thereabout, right? And what it does is that it limits the scale for us, right? So in our global portfolio, there are so many cars. If I need to bring some car in India, even to test, although government has become quite liberal when it comes to homologation, I can bring some cars and I think still sell them, but the duty rate is still very high. Then it doesn't make sense to sell cars at that price and customers don't really buy them. So that's a big hurdle. What FTA can do is, if there is a car which is available in global portfolio which I want to bring in India, I either want to test it or I believe, okay, there is at least some segment of customers who can have that car. FTA will allow us to bring that car quickly at a reasonable price and offer to our consumer. And so that is one very important thing. The other thing is when we look at, okay, what do we do to sort of expand from India? So today when we look at India, we look at only in India, right? With trade agreements, we can say, okay, from India, we can cater to different markets. And that can also bring a different scale to our equation. And these two things will, I think, go a long way in, I think, going forward as we sort of understand it in a better way. But ultimately, it all depends upon the fine print of the FTAs.
All right, on that note, we come to the end of this special broadcast from video journalist Akhilesh Verma, Hruday Patra and me. Thanks for watching and goodbye.